Welcome back to Bending the Narrative here on the Aspect Network. I'm one of your hosts, Kate Kronquist, and joining me every week to discuss the latest and greatest in the world of Avatar is Alex Batts. Alex, how are you doing?
I'm doing great. Super excited to get into this episode. So today we're continuing our journey through the Earth Kingdom with the episode Imprisoned. To start this week, let's take a look at the Avatar world map and track Team Avatar's journey. So so there we go. So we're going from Omashu to what is this village called? I already lost it.
It's just Haru's village, they call it.
Oh yeah, they don't even give it a proper name.
I don't think they give it a name.
Interesting.
Yeah.
He owns it. It's his village.
It's Haru. Yeah. Love that for him.
Honestly.
Love a young man who owns a village.
Yeah.
He's got his life together.
What a philanthropist. So yeah, we've got him. So we're covering a pretty.
We're still in the Earth Kingdom, right?
Yeah. Yeah. So we're still in the Earth Kingdom. We've just gone west. Yeah, I know directions. We've gone west a little bit. I got it. I had to go through all of them in my head for a second. It's fine.
Never eat soggy waffles.
So we went west a little bit. So we haven't made any progress towards the North Pole, which is where we need to get. But that's okay. Little side detour to his village, and then we'll also go off the coast a little bit for, I guess, like half the episode. I want to say a majority of the episode, but I feel like the screen time is probably split between the oil. A good
50-50, yeah.
The essentially oil rig. It's not an oil rig, actually. It's a coal rig, but it's the same.
But why is it in the ocean? Why is it in the ocean?
They get into that. It's so that they can't bend any Earth stuff.
Oh, is that just the sole reason?
Yeah, that's what I forget the commander's name now. We'll get into it, but yeah, that's why it's way out there. It's definitely just an oil rig, though. It's like what it is, really.
Yeah, it is. Yeah,
it's cool.
That's what it looks like, and everything. It's cool.
We get a little bit off the coast from Haru's village. Oh, that's so funny. I never really thought about the fact that they just call it that. Like, that's incredible. No name, just Haru's. It's just
Haru's village.
So that's fun. We crossed some forests and stuff. We're close to some Fire Nation stuff.
Fire Nation.
Yeah, which
I can see why this village has been overtaken.
Yeah.
It's right next to the Fire Nation.
Which gets into all of the more bigger themes that this episode really gets into, and how the Fire Nation just steamrolls people and all that fun stuff.
Fun stuff.
Yeah. Gotta love the Fire Nation and all their just the fun stuff.
Gotta love their occupation of Haru's village.
Cool. just awesome. Good stuff on their part. But yeah, they flew over some forests and stuff. And I mean, as far as distance travel, this is
a rather short one.
It's about on par with the first couple episodes. I think the biggest jump we had was definitely the last episode from Kyoshi Island to Omashu. It was twice as far as they went here. So less time between, I have to assume, as far as the travel, if they're traveling at the same pace the whole time. That's fun. It's cool stuff. Again, it's just so cool that we had this map to look at and track.
Yeah.
And really see and think about all
how
the sites
far they're going, where they're going.
Yeah, the distance.
They probably stop for food or something. Yeah.
I bet they pit stopped in that forest that's in between Omashu and the village. They had to.
Well, actually, it does start the episode.
They start there in the forest, right?
Yeah. So actually, let's go through our little play-by-play. Yeah, as you said, this week we're being introduced to Haru and his father, which is important with this episode 6. It's directed by Dave Filoni and written by Matthew Hubbard. And also, if you're just joining us, we will be discussing the show in its totality. So be warned about spoilers.
Yes.
Which, again, if you're joining just at this episode,
welcome. Also listen to the other ones.
No judgment, but listen to the other ones.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, Alex, tell me what you think about this episode.
Okay. Before we get into the episode, something I do want to point out that you just mentioned. This episode is directed by Dave Filoni, which he is now very famous because of Star Wars and his hand in the Clone Wars, and then now a lot of the live action stuff for Star Wars. So super huge name, but he actually was working on this show well before then. So that's just cool little trivia, fun fact stuff. And you can definitely see
he has a little Midas touch, it seems.
Yeah, you could definitely see a lot of his sensibilities and stuff here. So yeah, I love this episode a lot. I think it's Really important as far as showing a lot of the themes. And again, we got hints of this with the Kyoshi Warriors episode, as far as how different villages like react to the Fire Nation and things like that, and all of those things, which we'll get into. But as for like a play by play, I guess we'll go ahead and start a recap. We open in the forest, like you were saying, with they realize that they are sadly out of food, and
So
then
they stop for food.
and then they ran out.
And then,
They're like, we need more. And
that's how
so
we
they
get
hear
here.
a big boom in the forest and they run towards it. I love Sokka being like, we should probably not run towards the loud noises.
Which, like that's very in character. He would say something like that. Like, I'm glad somebody was like, why? Like, you know, in horror movies, there's always that, why are we running towards the noise? Why are we staying in the house? Why are you going
like we should
towards
like
the guy
why are you
with the
running
axe?
upstairs? Like, come on, go out the front door. Like, what are you doing? So Sokka's thinking, I'll give him that. He's like, hey guys, we should not go towards what's probably bad. But then they end up seeing that it's an earthbender who's practicing throwing boulders, and Katara just straight up runs towards him and is like, hey, and, like wants to make friends, which is so funny.
She's like, oh my God, please.
Yeah,
like she's thinking about the main task. We need an earthbender. Aang needs to learn earthbending.
Which, I mean, that's good. That's smart.
Focus, guys.
And he just runs away. He straight up sees them and is like, nope, I'm out. I'm gone. And so he runs away. Yeah, which you're like, I don't know. Okay, maybe he's just an anxious little guy. But so he runs.
Social anxiety.
Yeah, heavy relate. I would just run away as soon as I see someone in the forest being like, hey, want to be friends? I'll be like, nope.
Be like, you're probably going to kill me.
Yeah, I mean, and as we'll get into it, like we can see why he has that. So
yeah.
Aang realizes that they could probably be near a village, which equals more food, which is what they need. So they follow him. And I love
great justification to get
I love like they like very much set up. Again, the show does such a good job of like nothing is just randomly put out there. Like
everything is justified.
And they're like, they need food. And he's like, oh, well, we could go to this village to get food. It's like, oh, that makes sense. Good job getting them there. Like, cool. And also just the continued through line of like Sokka always being hungry is great, which like everyone needs to eat. But I love that it's just like his recurring, thing. His thing.
And it does hilarious. Like advance the plot.
Yeah, exactly. Like it's a meaningful thing to happen and like good like plot device stuff. Which is good. I love that they get into the village and they find Haru and they just like immediately like they're so bold. These kids are the most bold. They just like burst into the house and they're like, hey, we saw you earthbending. And like
and they're like
and he's like, no, you didn't. And they're like, yeah, we did. Like there's just no
and like they're probably scared as hell because they're like, are you gonna kill me now? Yeah. And they're just so clueless. And they're like, no, like
we just need help.
We just want to know about it.
We just want to be friends. Like, and it's hilarious.
And kids are like that. So it is funny.
Yeah. I mean, it is very in character for all of them and like not thinking about the larger context of why he would be running or why he would be like, no, you didn't see me earthbending, even though they obviously did. And so in this, we learned that earthbending is illegal in this village as it is occupied by the Fire Nation. We also get the Fire Nation soldiers showing up and like asking for money, taking money,
threatening for money. Yeah.
I mean, like you need to give us more money. And so like we see all of that.
Which I think is very cool that they showed. Like one of the main things I love about the show is showing like the little microcosms of war and like the effects of it and how it affects every little person. And this is a thing that happens in war, and historically it has happened where soldiers will take advantage of the cities that they're in and advantage of the people and abuse their power and do it in these small ways by not letting them express freedom, not letting them have money, like making them pay them or else they'll hurt them or their loved ones. And it's a very real, scary part of war.
It's it's just compounding levels of the occupation and the oppression and like abusing, like you said, just abusing their power, like all the way, like up and down, like in every way they can, like they're doing it. And it's important to see that and like showcase that. And it does it in really small ways that inform all of the characters involved. Like you get more about the Fire Nation and how they operate, and you see more about how they operate. You see what it does to the individuals in this community. You then get to think about what it means for the community at large. And then you also can be like, okay, well, if that's this way here, like I can then infer that it's like this in a lot of the other places that the Fire Nation is occupying. And so like it's just this thing where this little like 2-minute scene, if that, you know, gives you so much information and so much character work. And so we also we learned that they've occupied this city for 5 years and they use the coal mines for their ships. And so
they're abusing their resources, abusing their labor.
Yeah, just all of it. Again, like,
the resources, slaves, basically.
Yeah, they're just taking advantage every single way they can. And Katara is like, you need to fight back. And the mother says there's too much risk. They've already taken his father away, which is, you know, again, like more character moments and things for the characters to bond over, because we get that. I love the little, I don't remember when exactly it happens in the episode, but I wrote in my notes, Appa Munchin in all caps.
Munchin.
So I love the little animated part of him. Just like, Appa's so cute. I love that guy.
I love Appa. Wait, this is so random. This has nothing to do with this episode, but I read in the art book that they had this idea that at the very, very end, they were going to release that Appa's actually been a girl the whole time. And they didn't know. But they didn't use it. They didn't use it. But I was like, that would have been hilarious.
Oh, yeah, I could see that. That's hilarious. I love all the little details like that, or the things that were like, we thought about doing this.
Fun random. Oh, also another fun fact, but back on this episode, the mother of Haru is voiced by Katara's voice actor's mother, Pat Music. So Katara's voice actor, cool. Mae Whitman, it's her mother voicing Haru's mother.
That is really cool.
Just like, I think I said that in a very crazy way, but
love that. Love those connections. So yeah, we get Appa chowing down, which is great. And then we also get this scene between Haru and Katara where they're bonding over their gone parents. Katara's mother obviously being dead and Haru's father is gone. We can assume alive still, and we will see alive still, but still gone. And but so
still, unknown.
Yeah.
They wouldn't know.
So that scene I put in my notes is just gorgeous. Like it's they did not have to go that hard with the animation for this scene, but it's just, there's so many like vista shots and just the way the sun is and like all of that. Like it's beautiful. It's such a stunning scene. And I'm like, what? You didn't have to do this, but they didn't have to
make it that beautiful, but they did. And now I'm thinking like, because they didn't have this episode at all in the live action. But I realized this part they did, but they had her do this with Jet, which I find interesting.
Yes.
I don't think she does that with Jet.
No, because they don't bond over that.
They don't bond
stuff.
Over that.
She's just like, you're hot. She's like, all right,
area girl, real.
I did put in my notes, I think, I was like, if there's one thing Katara is going to do, it's fall for a cute boy instantly. Like
real. She's so real for that, though.
She will lead an entire riot for this man. Gets imprisoned and is like, yeah.
It's so understandable.
So we get them bonding over the lost parents, and then we later on we'll get them. Well, one, we get the story before this. We get the story of her talking about her mother's necklace and how that's like all she has left of her and like how important that is to her. And that'll be very important come the end of this episode.
Very important.
Again, another thing where like nothing in the show is just there. It's all to inform your character or later on stuff and things like that. And so we have that. We have the fact that the gang gets to sleep in the barn, which is cool.
Very adorable.
Explains that first the Earthbenders tried to fight back, and that's when the Fire Nation took them all away, and they don't know where they got taken to, and so that's why the mom's like, no, we can't revolt anymore. Yeah, that'd be terrifying. I can't.
And that is a real thing that happens. Like
like they're
people
just
get taken away to prisons, then no idea where they go.
You just don't know where your family or loved ones are. Like they're just gone now, and you don't. It's so wild because I feel like that'd almost be worse than like seeing that. I mean, it's like comparing traumas and not like great thing, but like I feel like if you at least know, the not knowing would be so terrible. Like you're like, they could be dead, but they I don't know. You don't have
Yeah.
any
They could be being
room.
tortured or starved or
Yeah, like there's
who's
just no
to
room
say?
for closure there, which would be
Mhm.
horrific. So we get all of that fun stuff. The Fire Nation subjecting them. I'm just going. We'll just keep it going.
Fun stuff.
But so we get that. And then the next major thing is that a nearby mine explodes and an old man is
Mhm.
trapped in the rubble. And the only way to save him is for Haru to earthbend him out of there. And he's like
Which
not
I
willing to
always
do it.
found this so odd. Why was he out there? Why did it explode? I'm
By
wondering, I
himself.
theorize that it's a trap.
That would make sense.
Like, because he does later on rat him out.
Yeah.
I wonder if like
So
that was on
maybe he'd like
purpose.
suspected, or the Fire Nation put him up. That's a good point, that he's just like
Yeah.
out there in the mine. I mean, they do mention that the Fire Nation is abusing the coal mine, so like maybe he just was out there doing that stuff anyway. But there's no one else around. Yeah, that's a good point, kind of. But we needed him to get out there, and so
Yeah.
the mine explodes,
the one thing.
and he's trapped. And Katara is like, you got to help him, and so he does. And I really love this because one is showing Katara is always going to advocate for the genuinely right thing. She's like,
Yes.
this is the correct thing to do. You should do it. Like, it's worth whatever the possible consequences might be. And then the gang goes to sleep, and we learn in the night or we see in the night too, the Fire Nation showing up, and the miner being like, this guy's the one who used earthbending. And so Haru's
really,
taken.
Man.
Yeah, dude, screw that guy. That guy sucks so hard.
Sucks.
Just the worst. So
but
we
also, like, I do like that. Sorry, but
no,
it's like if I don't rat him out and they find out,
yeah,
then my family could be at risk. So
yeah,
it shows like how they keep these families under their thumb.
Yeah, it's again the compounding of them not. Yeah, the dude feels like he has no other choice. Like he has to do it because he's like, well, I mean, like earthbending is illegal here because of what the Fire Nation will do. I have to look out for me first. And so like, it's understandable how he gets there and why he does that. It's just terrible. Like it's just all wrong.
Yeah.
But so Haru gets taken away, and then we get
a great scene.
Yeah.
It's so short. But what I love about it in this next scene, so Katara like goes out to bend some water. She sees Haru's mom. She understands that he's been taken. No talking, no dialogue.
No,
just a look. Live action. Take notes. Take notes.
Just it literally is the definition of show don't tell. Like you get it all. You get the stereotypical like dropping of the whatever and it shattering on the ground. But like there's a reason that's a stereotypical like trope thing to do, and it's because it works. Like it conveys all the information.
Kids understand.
Yeah, like it's really
a kid show.
Yeah, it is, and they just nail that. It's a great moment, and so Katara's like, well, it's my fault. We have to find a way to save him. And Sokka is like, no, like we have to, like, it's not our problem. And so we get the like back and forth between them, which I think is nice. Sokka's thinking about the bigger picture. And again, in Katara's character, she's thinking about doing what's right, like in the moment, which is again, like, it's so good. It's just great.
It's so, yeah, this really shows who Katara is in this. And
yeah, it's amazing. And so then we get
will to fight.
Her being like, I'm going to get captured by the Fire Nation.
Yeah.
Because that's
I love the plan. Yeah.
The plan is so good. And the plan, so they're going to have basically do fake airbending. They'll have Sokka and Katara do a fake fight. And then there's a vent in the ground that they're going to use airbending from Aang to like make the rock, like the boulder levitate. And they'll be like, look, it's airbending. And so this is great for a multitude of reasons. One, it's a great comedic bit because Aang is like, yeah, I'll play along. And then he is like late on his cue, which is always a good bit. Like,
which is the thing, Aang ignores his main responsibilities. He rather than have fun than do the main thing. And
he's just like messing around. And then you also get the bit of the Fire Nation soldiers being stupid because Momo is behind the boulder. And they're like, the lemur's earthbending. And Sokka has to be like, no, you idiots, it's the girl. Like, and they're like, oh, yeah, right. Which is just, again, a great bit. But the other thing, and we'll get there more in detail later, but like this vent plan will come back in the end of the episode.
Mm-hmm.
And the climax, like them utilizing this technique, is very important for later
It's
on in the
not just a
episode.
joke.
So like it just works on so many levels. It advances the
Yeah.
plot in a really smart way. It shows character stuff. You get a good comedic joke in there. Like you get there's layers and
Nothing
layers
is
of it.
unnecessary.
It's so
Everything seen, it's Chekhov's gun. Everything seen is used.
yeah,
And they follow that to a
amazing.
T. Mhm.
It's so we get that, and then you know, Katara gets taken away, and they take Katara to the prison, and Aang and Sokka will follow her on Appa, and so this is where the oil rig gets introduced, which is a coal rig, I guess technically. And so the warden of the prison is like talking about things, and he's like, I would rather think of you guys as like a family, and like y'all aren't prisoners, you know, like if you just
Mhm.
do what you're supposed to do, like it'll be fine. And he also explains that the reason they're on this rig way out in the middle of nowhere is so that there's no earth anywhere around that they can bend. That way there's no way the earthbenders can escape, which like I made note of this. I was like, that's won't work in a few years, whatever, or like
In a few years when
whatever.
they discover they can bend metal. But
Yeah, I'm
yeah.
like, oh man, that's that you're
So I
gonna have
wonder
to
if
call
this
this.
was before, like they made this plot before they even thought that they could do that. But
Yeah,
or I wonder if they
that's-
knew, but they were like, but see, this is an example of how nobody thought that far. Nobody thought that big.
Yeah,
Everybody
like
was
no
just
one
thinking basic.
in the
Yeah.
universe thought that, like in the universe
could
of
do
the show,
that.
thought that it could be a possibility that like earthbenders could bend metal, like that. That's that you would get there from that. And so it's just a really like that's an interesting thing to like point out and think about. And yeah, I do wonder if they had already been thinking about that, or if that's something that came up later, or like
Yeah.
what. Either way, it's super interesting.
But yeah. And fun fact, the warden is voiced by George Takei, who's a great actor. You'll know him from other things. But he was, when he was younger, he was in a US operated Japanese relocation camp during World War II.
That's
And
wild.
so, yeah, so it's very much like a similar experience and a similar thing. But it's funny because he's playing the warden. So I
Yeah,
wonder,
it's a very,
I just
like,
wonder for him how
wonderful-
that felt to, yeah.
Yeah. Oh, that's interesting. I wonder if he's ever like talked about that and like
I know, I couldn't
any
find much on
interviews or
that.
stuff. That's a super interesting like tidbit though to note.
Yeah.
So yeah, the rig is made entirely of metal, so they can't bend it until later. But they're real. I bet they all get so like pissed whenever they eventually later find out that they can that like you can bend metal if you know you figure
They're
it
probably
out.
like, damn, I spent all that time. But it is like,
Yeah.
isn't it? Bending metal is a very, like, it takes a while to learn. Like, you have to be a pro to be able to do that.
Yeah.
That's like a
And,
next
like,
level.
I can't remember exactly how they talk about it in Korra too, but I think they talk about that it's like not necessarily every earthbender can also be a metal bender, because I know that
I think there is something about
Bolin
that.
doesn't bend metal, but he is able to do the lava bending, which also the fact that
Yes.
lava bending is an earth bending thing and not a fire bending thing is kind of interesting. All the different sub bending stuff is really fascinating. There's a lot
Very
going
interesting.
on there.
Yeah, there's a lot going on, which we'll get to. Audience, we'll get to that.
So
Keep on
Katara
listening.
and Haru meet in the prison yard, and we meet Haru's father, voiced by Kevin Michael Richardson,
Robin.
who also voices Captain Gantu in Lilo and Stitch, which is cool. His voice is so recognizable. Like you hear him talk, and you instantly know him. Like even if you haven't,
Yeah.
like
You're like, who is that guy? I know him.
he sounds
Playing.
a lot like I'm blanking on the voice actor's name, but like current Kratos, the dude who voiced Kratos in the last two God of War games. Like I literally in my notes was like Kratos ? And then it's not, but it sounds a lot like
Oh,
him.
it sounds like it.
Yeah.
He's got a great deep voice though. It's awesome.
Yeah, he's got that super, it's just a deep bass. It's great. Very commanding. And like you're like, oh, you know what you're talking about no matter
Like,
what.
damn. Yeah.
You're like, yeah, I'll listen to you. So Katara tries to ask them what their plan is to like escape, and he's like, no, the plan is just to survive and hope that eventually we'll get out of here. Like there is no plan. It's just, you know, we go day to day, and like that's enough.
We just try to survive. Yeah.
Yeah, and they say that it'll just be worse if they try to fight. Like there are people's lives at stake, and like fighting would make it worse. Like we've lost here. We just
which is so real. I've seen a lot of, some people have commented on this episode and they're like, why won't they fight? Why won't they do anything? That's so weird that they won't fight. And it's like, this is such a real thing that happens. Like
Yeah. I mean,
these being
it's
able to
part
have
of it.
control of people like that, like you get to them to a certain level where they don't want to take the risks of hurting their loved ones. Like it's scary. It's a real risk to stand up like that. And it's you like people think like, oh, just be brave. But like the bravery it actually takes to stand up to somebody that
Mhm.
could kill you
Yeah.
is insane. And that's why like these characters in this show are so great. And I think too, because they're kids, they don't think of it that harshly. But like as an adult and when you're older, it becomes more scary and you realize how much is at risk. But as a kid,
Yeah.
you're not thinking that big. And that's why I think Katara is so brave and she's able to stand up and give these speeches and they're all able to dive in head first.
I love
Mhm.
the like her giving that speech and then the just no reaction. It's so like one, her speech is great. Again,
Mhm.
just moving into her like more stuff for her character. But then the reaction of everyone just being like, whatever, like
Yeah.
just no. Like it just highlights the it's just oppression to the nth degree. Like it's just like
Like how
they've
subservient
completely
they've become.
yeah, like they've just completely defeated them. Like their
Hmm.
morale is non-existent. There is no hope for them. They don't believe that
Hmm.
what she's saying is an actual possibility or that it's even worth it to try. Um, and so like she feels pretty bad at that point, and is like
Yeah.
defeated. And then in the night, Aang and Sokka show up and they try to get Katara to leave, but she refuses because she won't give up on them, which again
Hmm.
is so good. Katara's like, no, like these people need help. I'm gonna help them.
It's her whole thing
And
about hope and that they make fun of in the play that happens
mhm,
way at the end of season 3.
uh-huh.
But they always make fun of Katara for there just needs to be more hope in the world. And
But she's right, like, and
but it
it
like
does.
that's her thing. Yeah.
And the show like validates that though, right? Like
Hmm.
she does that, and against all odds, it works. And like that's the thing that you do need, and it sends that message of like, yeah, like, and it's a kind of almost corny like hopefulness, right? But it's good,
Hmm.
and that's a useful thing, and like you do need people like that, and it's important to recognize and believe in that sort of it is worth having hope no matter what.
Yeah.
And like that's
And
great
it's
to
more
see.
relevant now than ever, which
Yeah.
is crazy. Like this episode, I think the message of it too keeps coming up again and
Hmm.
again. It's
Also,
mhm.
a note that I made about the visual language of the Fire Nation and about the entire rig and all of it. It's so ominous and like again just like leads into their like the oppressive feeling of them. Like the first time you see the rig, it's just this crazy huge bulking thing and like all the sharp points and jagged edges. And of course they
Yes.
like bathe it in the red light at first, and like it's just so again the show is so good at like visually telling you how to feel or like showing you how
Hmm.
to feel, which again is like such a
It's
sharp
like they're
contrast.
imposing. Yeah.
Yeah, like, and it's a great contrast to the scene that we saw like in Haru's village where it's the beautiful sunsets and like the open
Hmm.
fields and like all of that, and then you like have the Fire Nation and you see how terrible the environments that they create are and how unfriendly and just bad it is. You're like,
Like
well, this is not.
industrial and
Yeah, it's just
like
the like
it looks like it
the
just poisons the earth.
yeah, which is what they're doing. They're just stripping the village for its resources
Hmm.
and just burning it and just making these huge castles of terror essentially. Like it's
Yeah.
awful. Like it's so bad. And so we get that we get them um trying to convince Qatar to leave and she won't. And so they both decide to stay instead of leaving her there.
Hmm.
And I love the two guards saying Appa fly away, and they try to explain to the warden, and he just like won't hear it. And then he knocks the one into the water, and he tells the other one to like go tell the captain, whatever. And
He's
he's
like,
like, so that
sir, that was the captain.
it's
He's
so
like,
good. I
then
just
find somebody else who I didn't throw in the water.
the warden is so funny, and I also like his character is so great. He's just like a
Like
not I don't know.
campy villain,
Yeah,
but
he's just so
yeah.
like campy to the level of almost incompetence, right? Like where he's just like,
Yes.
I'm so right and I'm gonna do that like no matter what. And it's just funny. It reads as like hilarious, even though he's a terrible person.
But like
Like,
you do see truth behind it. Like there is like, I see what they were going for. I know that person.
yeah, you can see
Like
that kind of
it's
terrible
not
leader.
it's not like, oh, let's make him funny for kids, Like it's
Mhm.
there's still truth to it.
Yeah,
And
it's the like he it's the important thing. I've seen actors talk about this. Bryan Cranston, I know, has talked about it when people have
Love
talked about like
him.
playing a comedic role or like a comedic character, how like the character can't think that they're comedic or campy because then you
Yes.
ruin it. Like you have like they have to fully believe in what they're doing, and like you see that here. Like he fully believes like he's in the right. Like what he
Yeah.
like throwing that
He's
dude
not
off
being
and
funny. That's
yeah, like
real. Yeah.
he's playing it completely straight, and like that's what sells the camp is that like to him it's not that it's not a campy thing. Like it works, and like that's why it's so good. And you're like, yeah, that's great. I love it.
You're like, it's why it works. It's why it sells. But anyway,
yeah, like you just have to. It's just the full commit to things. Like if you full commit to whatever, your audience like will follow and will get it, which is great.
Yeah.
So they realize that they're burning coal, which is Earth, and so they devise their plan to shut off all the vents, and then Aang will push the coal through the vents and have it explode into the main courtyard so that everyone
can actually use it. Because I think the thing is that it's so they put it underground and they keep it so protected that they have such an eye over the earthbenders that they can't use it. They don't have like an opportunity to actually use it.
And I feel like they also probably just didn't think about it, I guess. Like the earthbenders didn't think that much about them using the coal and that they could use that.
I don't want to believe that though. Like I feel like
at least one person would
like at least one person would be like, oh, we have coal, we could bend that. But I think I feel like it could be explained that the firebenders thought about it, and because the only reason they use it is because Aang brings it up to the
surface.
The surface.
Yeah.
And they're able.
So again, though,
they're all able to get their hands on it.
Is the same plan that they used earlier in the episode with the giant rock, except just on a bigger scale. And it's literally how you solve the main conflict in the episode. Like, it's not introducing a Deus Ex Machina at the end of the episode to solve the problem. It's bringing it back to what you saw earlier. And so they use that. And then even still, after the coal explodes into the courtyard, they refuse to fight. Like, Tara gives another speech and is like, you can fight back now. And they still don't. And again, that's just the like how powerful those fear tactics are. Like you can't, they don't have any hope, and so they're like, no.
I like how it shows though that it just takes one person, and that's Haru. Like Haru stands up, and he launches
character growth for him. He refused to use earthbending in the space of fear earlier in the episode, even though Katara was trying to convince him to, and so he finally did. But now he does it on his own. I mean, not entirely on his own, because
yeah, not entirely. He does it, and then his father's like, "Well, if you're doing it, then I'm coming in to help you," and then that tidal waves into everybody else coming in.
Yeah, which is again, it's cool. We get our first like I think full scale like a bunch of benders fighting each other battle, which is sick. I also though,
you're right.
This battle I've always had a kind of question mark over it because like I feel like the firebender should just be able to burn all the coal super quickly, and like that's kind of it. Like
I never thought of that.
Like they use the coal as shields and stuff, like the earthbenders do as like shields or whatnot. But I'm like, you should if they make it hot enough, they could just. I guess coal doesn't burn fast enough for that would be the explanation.
Coal experts out there, let us know how does coal work? Because actually, I don't know.
I don't know. Like I know it burns pretty slowly, but like I don't. I mean, and they do show it catching on fire and stuff and like burning some. So like I guess that would be the reason why. But like I'm always like, shouldn't they just be able to like put a lot of heat on that and then their ammunition's kind of gone?
Suspension of disbelief. I'm gonna
but
like that's the thing about the show. Like that's the one thing we can think about.
Yeah, like that's the only thing where I'm like, maybe this wouldn't work. But also I don't really know how coal works in that.
I don't really know how coal works. Yeah,
on that level.
On that level.
And then also they're bending fire and earth. So like, I guess it's fine.
Like also they have superpowers. So let's calm down.
So it's fine. They have superpowers on a kid's show. So I'll give them their coal shields.
I'll give them that.
The fire.
I'll give them that. Yeah. But I do love this. We see some great bending here. We see some great different uses of bending. We see how earthbenders work together to do things. And I do love that. Is it Haru and his father that push the coal together to make one
big thing? I also love the machine gun funnel that Aang makes.
Yes, that Aang makes. That's so creative. The air tunnel shoot.
Yeah.
They like put a piece of coal in and it pops at the other side.
And they just start like doing a bunch in there, and he's like essentially operating like a Gatling gun type thing. It's just like
you just see him doing that.
So that's cool. I mean, the whole fight sequence, again, with all the fights in the show, is just great. The choreography is awesome. The animation rules.
Yeah.
So we get them doing that, and then the Earthbenders hoist the soldiers above the water, and the warden pleads, "Please, I can't swim." And Tyra says, "Don't worry, I heard cowards float," which is
Bars.
so good. Yeah, I saw that you put bars in your notes.
I wrote in the comments bars. Multiple exclamation points.
Absolutely baller line. Like, dude, it's like, it's so good. Like, come on. It doesn't get better than that.
That's hard. That goes hard.
Yeah, it's amazing. So that's them being liberated. And then the ending is them like going away on their ships, and Haru and Tyro thank Katara. And then Katara realizes that her necklace is gone. She doesn't have it anymore. Smash cut to Zuko on the
We just
rig.
realized we didn't see the entire episode. We didn't see any cuts to Zuko and Iroh this whole episode.
It was just on the gang, which is
just
super
on the gang.
Cool.
Yeah,
and then
the first episode to do that.
We get so we get them, and he finds the necklace. Dun dun dun, and that's how the episode ends. Which also I think it's really like serendipitous that he's just like immediately on the rig after all of this stuff happened. Like it's not at all elaborated. Like how it
he just knew. He was like, something's going on. Well, I'm sure they heard like the whole rig has been taken over.
Yeah, or something. Like
SOS. Going down and they escaped before they got there. But
but so he finds the necklace. Which is good and will come into play later. But yeah, all of that stuff is
great
good.
Cliffhanger.
It's so good. The episode does so many things well, and we're starting to get cliffhangers that really like lead into further stuff and like are setting up future things, and just amazing character stuff. So yeah, it's amazing. That's the episode though. So when we come back,
we learned so much.
Yeah, we learned so many things. It's great.
That's all I wanted to say. We learned so much.
So when we come back, we're going to talk more about this episode and how it compares to the live action version of this series, which will be super interesting for this. So we'll be right back.
Hi, my name is Megan.
And I'm Bree. Enjoying this show on the Aspect Network?
Then check out Viltrumics, an Invincible podcast.
Each week, we go back and discuss your favorite episodes of the series and review new episodes as they release right on Amazon Prime.
Join us as we travel space, time, and the multiverse with Mark Grayson and discuss one of the most exciting superhero series on TV on Viltrumics, here on the Aspect Network.
And now, back to the show.
Welcome back to Bending the Narrative. Each week, we dive into Netflix's Avatar: The Last Airbender live action series. While you can find our overall thoughts of the season in our first episode, throughout book one, we will be discussing in further detail how each episode compares to the live action counterpart. Since this episode is cut from the live action series entirely, we're going to discuss the importance of this episode in the narrative and how its exclusion from the live action series affects that story. Kate, let's start with you.
What I think that's what I gotta say.
It's rough.
It's rough. But I think this episode is very important. And like we talked about before, a big thing that this show does is it shows how war affects a nation, from the smallest little bits to the overall bit, I guess.
The full scope of it, I guess.
The full scope of it, yeah. And I think missing out on this episode and missing out on this is missing out. I said that so many times, but we're losing out on so many character moments, so many world building moments. It's a great episode to help us understand why and how this works. And when you're like, okay, but how did the Fire Nation take over these people with superpowers? How did this one superpower outdo all of these people? And this is one of those things that shows you like, oh, this is how they did it, with innovation, with new weapons, with metal, with like, they're actually pretty smart. And while we do see soldiers that are stupid, we see that their tactics are very harsh, very creative, using metal, using ships, using fear, kidnapping their loved ones and threatening them, using prison labor to make coal for them, to make them even more powerful. We don't get that at all in the live action show. I don't even think we know why the Fire Nation is bad in the live action show, except we see in the beginning of that, which episode was it? I think it was the King of Omasho episode with Azula, where she is in the group of Earth Kingdom Rebellion and she helps them get in, but it's just and turns on them.
Yeah.
Like that's it.
Yeah, it's one of those things where that the live action show does telling instead of showing, where the animated show shows you the ways in which the Fire Nation is this huge oppressive. It shows the engine of war and how it operates on every level and how it's a systematic takeover of these people and their culture and their land and their resources and their spirit, and it just breaks them. And yeah, like you lose all of that emphasis in the world building, like you were saying, where there's a lot of little things here that help and make the world feel more real and like a genuine situation. Whereas, like you're saying, like you see in this why the Fire Nation is so bad, and you see why they're so bad in a different way than just, well, they're bad guys who are throwing fire at our protagonist, right?
Yeah.
Like they're separating families, they're abusing their power in every way that they can. And you see that versus in the live action show, we're just told the Fire Nation is bad because the Fire Nation is bad. Aside from the one very blatant Azula leading a group of people to the palace to get burned, which is the most like overt way you could possibly show.
But like we only see it in the castle. We don't see Azula and the Fire Lord leave the walls of that castle until the end of the last episode.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like, what do they do? How do they affect the world if they're just in there?
And that's another problem of like show, because like one, you don't even see, like you see Ozai so much in the live action show, and he's just doing a bunch of nothing. Which doesn't make him super formidable, one. But then it also, it just undermines like the emphasis on, like you were saying, it's like you can show the incompetence of all of these foot soldiers and even the commanders and the captains and the wardens or whatever, and you can show how not effective they are, but because of the machine that they're a part of, because of the system of the Fire Nation and its imperial strength, like it doesn't matter that there's this level of incompetence in them. They have the numbers and they have the structures in place to be able to still take advantage of people and to steamroll them literally. And so it doesn't matter that they have this level of people not really knowing what they're doing, because there's enough of them to step into the structure is made to account for that. It doesn't, they can be incompetent. There's 80 other people that can do the same job, because it's not about the individual people. It's about thing as a whole, and like how it operates. And like you lose that by not including an episode like at all. There's literally nothing in this episode is in the live action.
I cannot recall in the live action where we truly see any of the Fire Nation actually doing what the Fire Nation is supposed to be doing.
Yeah, like the close. I mean, no, because that's not even the Fire Nation. I was thinking about the Iroh being captured and like taken away, but that's Earth. Those are Earth Kingdom soldiers.
That's the Earth Kingdom. Yeah.
Like, that's not. Like it makes the Earth Kingdom look worse than the Fire Nation actually, because they're like, even though and that's because you're like we
see Zuko, but
but the thing is, you're supposed, like Zuko and Iroh are supposed to be sympathetic characters ultimately for the audience, and like they're building that up already in the first season of the live action series. And so by seeing them like imprisoned, and you want them to be broken out, and so then it paints the Earth Kingdom soldiers in a more negative light, which is not how that's supposed to go. Like it makes them look worse than the Fire Nation by comparison, because we see them do things to the characters that we care about in a bad way. Like
and then like you see why they have to intervene. But I also like showing this too. It builds up to show that just by cutting, like if you cut off the head of the snake, there's still, I guess I don't know what that. There's like an analogy with that, but
the Hydra.
The Hydra, yes.
Yeah, how there's always going to be more. Yeah.
there's always going to be more here, and like they have so many things in place, and we see that just by one victory doesn't mean they won the war. They won that battle, but they have a whole war to win.
Well, I mean, and like they even talk about it at the end of the episode where they're like sailing away. They're like, we're going to go back and like take our village back, right? And it's like, okay, or like all of their respective villages, you know. And it's like, well, they like got off the rig, but that's just the first step, and also
that's just the first step.
One of like hundreds of things like this. Like we see later on, I can't remember exactly. I feel like it's in book 2, but the Painted Lady episode.
Yes.
Of course, we'll get there. But that's another example of like.
Get there.
That should be. We should make shirts.
We're gonna make T-shirts, guys. we'll get there.
We'll get there though. But like that's another example of the type of system and level of oppression that they have in place, where like they just are finding every way that they possibly can to exploit and demean and demoralize, and it's just and like they're able to do that because they've been doing it for 100 years at this point. Like it's a war that's been going on for so long. They have the power, and they've so decisively established themselves in this position where like they can just keep doing this and doing it without resistance, essentially, because there's not enough people to resist, or the people don't think there's any chance for resisting. And of course it plays into the fact that like the Avatar has been gone for 100 years, so like that does a lot to morale. And so it's just like all of these things that you miss. I feel like the biggest thing that you miss by not including this is that just like seeing the Fire Nation operate on this level, on this scale. It's not there in the live action show. In the live action series, I don't see them as this imperial force, this imperial like superpower, which is what they are, like especially in this world, right? Like they are the biggest. Yeah,
and you see how it becomes that they're like America, and
like they literally are just like going into all of the other nations and taking their resources and killing their people, like, and doing it without.
And they have the weapons, they have the most advanced everything to be able to do this. Yeah, they have steel. They seem to be the only country with metal.
Steel. And they literally are like the embodiment of the like might makes right
industrial
mentality.
Revolution. And
and they're like, well, we're the most powerful, so we're obviously right, and we should spread that. They have that mentality too of like, we're spreading the wealth, or like they view it as a good thing. They're like, like we should, and
manifest destiny.
It's that they're literally doing that, and like this is the right thing to do, and you're welcome, everyone else.
But kids shows can't make political statements.
When does that ever happen?
What?
I don't know. This is 2005, but it's just like you lose that in the live action show. There's none of that. We're just told that they're the bad guys because we're told that they're the bad guys, and we need bad guys to fight against. And like the most that we see it really is showing the genocide of the air nomads at the beginning, and we're like, well, that's terrible, obviously, but like
obviously
you don't see it in a more real way than
just
not that that's
the
not a real,
little
like,
things that they do.
You don't see it in like a day-to-day, like in this is how it affects things on
people
a
outside
scale.
Of our main story, I guess. You
don't see it in a like I'm gonna bring it back to Andor. There's a monologue where like there's just so many, the biggest thing they can do is that there's so many little atrocities that it's impossible to like keep track of them and fight against them, because it's not just one big thing that they're doing that's the problem. It's all of the hundreds or thousands of little things that they're doing that makes it so impossible to fight against. And that's where
it's overwhelming, and that's why most people don't do it, and that's why war happens, and that's how it keeps going. When you think back, you're like, just stand up to it. Like,
there's too much. It's
not just one big thing. There's too much. It's everywhere. It's overwhelming.
And
so it happens slowly.
And the show just the live action show doesn't have that at all. It's just like they're the bad guys. And then like they're the bad guys in a more nuanced way.
Guys with the fire, bad.
Yeah. And it's okay. And so like you lose that, but then aside from the Fire Nation stuff, you also lose the like character growth. Like this is such a great Katara episode, which I feel like she was one of the weaker parts of the actress was great. She was awesome. Yeah. No slight against her at all. But like her character feels really hollow in the live action series by comparison, because you lose a lot of the things like this. Like this
Her
whole episode
personality,
is
her strength.
Yeah,
Yeah. Her will to
exactly.
fight. Again, she's a fighter. Katara she's constantly fighting her brother. She's constantly yelling at Aang. She's constantly, well, like, she wants to fight. This girl wants to throw hands, and she does.
And she always wants to do it for the right reason too.
Yes.
Like she's all like, she is in the right. She's the moral compass, like through and through. Like, as much as, even though it kind of get like, she'll clash with Aang some about how to deal with the Fire Lord and whatnot, and like, you know, Aang is obviously right in that regard and those things, but like, it's the fact that like she's always fighting for doing the right thing, and you lose that by not having episodes like this. Like, you see the extremes that she's willing to go to here. Like, she's like, I'll get myself imprisoned because it's the only way that we can find them, and then
which is crazy.
Yeah, and so
it's so bold.
I can't imagine doing that. Like, being like, oh, we'll concoct a plan to pretend that
I'm right there with Sokka. I'm like, this is not my problem anymore.
Yeah, like, he literally is like, oh, he's gone in the middle of the night, too late. Like, we gotta go. Like,
nope,
and like,
not a problem.
Yeah, like, she gets imprisoned to go put on this, and she doesn't know where she's going. She has no idea. She doesn't even know if they're alive still.
She could be going to a slaughterhouse. She has no idea. Yeah.
But she's like, this is worth it. This is the right thing to do. This is what I should do. And so she does it. And that's amazing. And like, the whole episode is her, and like, is that for her? It's so much development there. And it's just not present in the live action.
It's not present in the live action. She's very subservient. She almost becomes, I think, in the animated series, she's really she's a main character, and you see that, like, you get episodes centered around her.
Yeah. But
she kind of just takes a very side character stance in the live action. It feels like they push her. They're really like, she's just a girl character.
It's wild to think about the fact that they kind of all feel like they take side character stances in the live action show. I don't know how that happens. Like, they all,
even Aang, I'm like, why is he like a side character, Loki?
Yeah, like, they all it's because of what they chose to like cut out and not show, where it's like, the time is spent in such odd places and on such odd things, where you're like, well, you're losing a lot of the things that really flesh out their characters and give them the depth that they need and the growth and the development that they need, to where you see them
makes it work.
Yeah, like, to where you see them like the full character that they have, as opposed to just like, oh, well, he's the guy that does this, or she does this.
Yeah.
And you just lose that by this not being here, which is like such a bummer, because she's so great. And the fact that she has an entire
awesome. She's a feminist icon.
She has 2 whole speeches in this episode that are like, and that's aside from her just like arguing with Sokka and Aang about what to do. She has 2 like literal monologues that she puts on in this episode that are fantastic, and they're just
so good. Meg Whitman, she kills it on the mic.
Yeah, she's so great, and they just are not there in the live action because they just cut the whole episode, which is okay, I guess. And then also, you're losing
okay, I guess.
Like, you're losing Haru.
Yeah, we lose Haru completely.
Which is okay. I mean, I wonder if they're just gonna like cut him completely from the series, and that'll just like not be a thing.
We lost the whole necklace thing with Zuko.
Yeah,
I guess now, but the necklace thing that they do is him. What does he do? He touches her scarf?
Yeah, but the necklace is important, though. And do they even talk about the necklace in the live action show? Because I can't remember at this point, honestly. But like, honestly, I feel like they don't.
It's all because I can't remember the show because it's just so out of place.
I binged it and I was
like, I binged it and I was like, don't make me watch this again, please.
Yeah, I was about to try to pull up the notes that I took on the Netflix show to like be for comparison, but there's not going to be any notes that are relevant to this episode because the whole episode's not there, so it doesn't matter.
The whole episode's not even there. Yeah.
But
so conclusion. Again, live action bad, animation good.
Yeah. Yeah. I think that's it.
Yeah. All right, guys. Up next, I'm going to be quizzing Alex with some episode trivia in a new segment called Wan Shi Tong Trivia. Get it? Like his library? Thanks. Okay. All right. We'll be right back. All right, guys. Welcome back to Bending the Narrative. Today we have a new segment called Wan Shi Tong Trivia. This is the time where we see if Alex is smarter than the great knowledge spirit? Alex, are you ready?
Not at all, but let's go. I'm
Great. Just what I want to hear.
Not confident. I feel like I'll get one, and that's because of a related thing that we were talking about earlier, but I'm not confident for most of these, but it'll be fun. It'll be cool.
Oh, the power I hold right now.
Yeah, I'm flying blind here.
I'm blind. Let's see if you still have your honor after this.
Get my top knot cut off.
Have your top knot cut off. All right. Are you ready for question 1?
Yeah.
Question 1. Haru's father, Tyro, is voiced by the legendary voice actor Kevin Michael Richardson. In addition to being a wise earthbender, we mentioned Richardson also voiced Captain Gantu in Lilo and Stitch. But what character, or should we say characters, does Richardson voice in Invincible, as discussed on our sister show here at the Aspect, Viltrumix?
Oh, I know this one. I literally was thinking about this the other day. I've also been watching Invincible again, and like, oh, I should absolutely know this. No, I can't. I don't know.
All right, I'll give you 5. We don't need a countdown if you don't know. All right, it's the answer.
Yeah.
The Mahler twins.
Oh yeah, no, they're so good too. I literally was texting my friend about how like they just had a development that happened where I got to in season 2, and I was like, oh, this is great. This is amazing development, man. That was a softball. I should have gotten that one.
Should have gotten that one. Oh, I need like an incorrect buzzer.
Yeah,
I need to get one of those. All right, question 2. Moving on.
Okay.
The Warden is voiced by favorite Star Trek actor George Takei. Amongst his many other roles, Takei returned to voice what character in Avatar: The Last Airbender live action series?
Oh, he voiced the character in the live action. No clue.
Do you want a hint?
Yeah, give me a hint.
He's a spirit.
He's a spirit. Oh, is he Wan Shi Tong?
Nope. Wrong buzzer. He's Ko the Face Stealer, which actually I didn't know until I read this. So
that makes
pretty
sense.
Cool.
That's okay. Yeah, I can hear that now.
You got that. All right, moving on. So 0 for 2. 0 for 2. I think you still have 2 more chances. You could still get this. You could still get at least half of it, you know. All right. Well, several 50%. Famous actors also provide additional voices to every episode of Avatar: The Last Airbender. So here are a couple trivia questions about some of our background voices. So the episode was directed by Dave Filoni, who went on to be supervising director of Star Wars: The Clone Wars, which you mentioned. So Imprisoned teams Filoni with one of his future Clone Wars cast members. And we're not talking about D. Bradley Baker. The guard or the warden doesn't throw, or the guard that the warden doesn't throw over the side of the prison in this episode is voiced by which famous actor for his narration and inverting of the English syntax in Clone Wars?
Is the character name written beside them, or is it just the actor name?
Both are there.
Okay. Is it the actor who voices Yoda in the Clone Wars?
Yes!
Let's go. Give me that. The inversion of the syntax was definitely what
That's a good hint. Yeah.
Yeah. I was like, okay, well, I'm gonna go. What's his name?
Tom Kane. He also does Admiral Yularen and the narrator.
Oh, okay. Cool. Oh, that makes so much sense. Okay. That's cool. That's good. That's good trivia.
The cast is stacked.
The cast is so stacked, honestly. But it's funny,
we have
before
one
you
more
gave
question for you.
the extra hint and that it was a guy, I was just going to say Ashley Eckstein because she's the one that I know for sure.
Oh.
But then I was like, oh, no, not her.
You're like, no.
Okay.
All right. Question number 4.
I feel confident.
Can you redeem yourself?
Sort of. If I can get 50%, I'll be happy.
50%, that's not failing in our world.
Yeah.
In our world. All right. So another background voice in this episode comes from actor Keith Sarabajka, who viewers like Alex will know him for playing the small but iconic character in The Dark Knight. I also have a hint. if you want it.
Yeah.
So Sarah Botchka plays a pretty riled up officer in one of the most famous scenes of the movie. Who is it?
Okay, hold on. A riled up off. Oh, he's the cop in the is he the cop in the press conference scene when he's like, no more dead cops? No. I'm gonna go with no.
I don't think so. No.
Who is he?
He's Stevens from the interrogation scene with the Joker.
Okay. That makes yeah, okay.
Wah, wah, wah.
I can't believe I got
Sean,
that
you're gonna
one
play
wrong.
that in the background. Yeah.
I should've
Wow,
known
Alex.
He doesn't get
One
that. Well, I mean,
out of
I guess he gets riled up. Yeah. It's like, how many you killed 6 of my friends? I started to try to like play the movie in my head.
In your head?
Okay, I'll get. Yeah, I can.
I gotta give it to you because I don't think I would have answered any of those questions. So
1 out of 4.
That was a good one.
I'm satisfied with, I suppose. I should have gotten them all though, honestly.
Is anybody listening? If you were able to guess them, let us know.
Yeah, hats off.
Good for you if you could get any of those.
Yeah. Okay, that's fine. I'll redeem myself in the future.
You tried your best.
Yeah, I tried. This will be a cool recurring segment, though. I like this. I like trivia.
Yeah.
It's fun going in blind, though, and being like, oh, well, we'll see.
We'll see if they're good.
Yeah.
And if I don't reveal anything about it earlier in the episode.
Hey, it happens. It's okay. So yeah, that's fun. That's it, I think. Thank you, everyone, for tuning in to Bending the Narrative. Next week, we're jumping into the spirit world with the 2-part Winter Solstice episodes. But before that, Kate, where can people find you online?
You can find me online at Kate the Official on Instagram.
Awesome. And you can find me online at AP Batman with 2 T's. Please be sure to subscribe here to The Aspect on YouTube or any podcast platform. Please give us a like, leave a comment down below, turn on the notification bell so you never miss an episode. And you can also follow us on Twitter/X, Instagram, and TikTok at The Aspect Co. Thank you so much for listening.
And Flameo Hot Man.